So hi, I'm Kathy Burlow, and I'm the founder and president of PDX Veg. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to Cassie Larson's cooking demonstration on how to create a healthy, easy, and portable plant-based meal plan. And Cassie is a whole food, plant-based personal chef and nutritionist. And her personal chef services include meal planning, shopping, cooking, and delivering delicious and nutritious food. And you can learn more about all this from her website. And there's a link for this in today's Veg Challenge email and also on the event page for this event on the PDX Veg website. And today, Cassie is going to show you how to make 3 tasty and nutritious plant-based meal jars that you can grab and go all week and that are great for picnics. And these will be a Greek salad in a jar, a creamy kimchi udon noodle jar, and a no-bake vegan cheesecake jar. And this recording is going to be put on the PDX Veg YouTube channel, and everybody's going to get that link. And the best and only way for you to ask questions is to type them into the Q&A, and I'm going to keep looking over there, and when there's a convenient pause, I will read them out to Cassie. So that is how you can get more information on this. And so I think I will turn it over to Cassie now. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Cassie, and that was a great introduction. Thank you, Kathy. I have a couple of disclaimers. One is I have a froggy throat and an itchy nose from allergies, so I apologize for the throat clearing and the nose scratching. I'll try not to do it too much. And then the other disclaimer is that I have a tiny kitchen and it's hard to adjust the camera and all of my stuff. And so if my head gets cut off at some point, sorry, I'm gonna prioritize you seeing what I'm doing over seeing the top of my head. So yeah, I chose jars because I've been doing them lately for my family and I really love the portability. You can make 3 or 4 per person for the week for a lunch that you can just grab and take with you to work or to play or wherever you're headed, and you can shake it, bring a fork, and go to town. I also like it because they're very flexible recipes, so you can use what you have, except for the cheesecake one. It really is use whatever you have in your fridge, and you can rethink the recipes that I'm giving you. So the Greek salad in a jar could be a Mexican style salad with black beans and salsa and corn and so on. So once you get a hang of the idea of the layers of the jars, you can really experiment and play around and feel like you're not so wedded to the recipes and make them more fit your needs better. So I thought today we would get started on the dessert first, because the dessert is the only one that is a little bit multi-step, a little bit more multi-step than the others. And I am going to start by making a date caramel or caramel. Well, there's a big debate in my family how to pronounce that. I would love to know how other people pronounce it so we can put this fight to rest in my family, because I say caramel and that's wrong. So I'm going to make caramel with dates. I have actually cut the recipe in half for my family. For this recipe that I'm making right now, the recipe that is linked to this demo is for 4. I'm just splitting it in half. So if it looks a little smaller than what you were anticipating, if you're cooking along, don't worry. So we are going to put some soaked dates in the food processor. You could also do this in your blender. I thought that this might not be enough volume in my blender to get the blade going properly, so I'm going to go with the food processor, but it would probably work with the full amount that the recipe calls for. These have been, I just dropped one. These have been cooked. I mean, these have been in boiling water for about 20 minutes so that they soften. If you have a really good food processor and your dates are really moist, you might get away with not soaking them ahead of time. If they're dried out, I really recommend soaking them in some hot water, even for 10 minutes. Otherwise, they will not turn into your nice, creamy, soft caramel like you want them to. The recipe calls for 1.5 cups of the dates, I think it calls for like a sprinkle of a pinch of salt, but I noticed that this recipe came out a little not salty enough for it to taste like caramel for me, so I'm adding a good pinch, or maybe 3 small pinches. And then I'm going away from the recipe because I like a little bit of almond butter in my caramel. I'm not gonna measure. I'm just gonna dump until my heart tells me to stop. And then when you have those in the blender, you can start, or not blender, this is called a food processor. You can start blending and have a little bit of water nearby so that if it's having trouble blending, if the blades are having trouble, you can add a little bit of water at a time. Go slow, don't add too much or you'll have too watery caramel. Okay, so apologies for the loud sound. I don't know if any of you have ever used dates to make date paste before. It's basically the same thing except without the salt and the almond butter. And all you're doing is blending the dates until they're like a thick, creamy puree. And you can use that to sweeten baked goods. You can use it just to like drizzle on top of ice cream or just eat on its own. And it's really, really good. But I like it even more with some salt and almond butter added in. It just balances the flavor better. I have to blend a little bit longer.
Just so you know, Zoom kind of filters out that noise, so it's not deafening.
I'm also realizing that I should have used my little tiny Cuisinart because like I was worried would happen in my blender, the caramel isn't getting as smooth as I would like because the volume is just too low for the blades to really get going. That is okay.
We have a little question here. It's, have you ever tried any other nut or seed butters like peanut butter or tahini?
Both would be great. I love tahini for caramel. Peanut butter would be wonderful. I just happen to have almond butter right there, so I went with it.
Yeah, they all sound like they
And if you have if there's nut allergy issues, you can use sunflower seeds. You could also use, no, that's all I was gonna say, sunflower seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be afraid to experiment with that because any nut butter is gonna taste really yummy. I just need to add a little more salt. So when that's blended, and mine is a little chunky, but I don't really mind it because it's not like it's not gonna be delicious anyway. When that's blended, we're gonna set that aside because that's gonna be our first layer in the dessert jar, which is, by the way, a lime ginger cheesecake. If you haven't already inspected the recipe, and it is such a good, that lime and ginger combo is so yummy. And the ginger or the caramel layer at the bottom is a really nice balance to the tangy, gingery cheesecake. So just to give you a little preview on that. So next is the cheesecake. So I'm using my Blendtec, which is kind of similar in power to a Vitamix. It's just it doesn't have that big stirring thing that I wish it did have. My next blender will be a Vitamix, not because I don't like this Blendtec, but just because I want that thingy to stir things. But this is an amazing blender and I've had it for like 15 years without any problems, except having to replace the pitcher. So highly recommend a good blender like this. Yes, they are very expensive and it's totally worth it if you can afford it at the time. If not, you can get away with soaking things until they're really soft. So for example, this cheesecake starts with a base of cashews blended with water. If you don't have a really strong blender, if it's just a regular tabletop blender like an Oster or whatever, soak them. You can either soak them in cold water overnight or you can do a quick soak in boiling water for 10-15 minutes. Any soaking is better than none. The only thing to watch out for is if you do soak them and the recipe doesn't call for soaking them, you may have to add extra liquid when you're blending, which is no big deal. Just add more water. So we are adding the cashews. I want to say it was 1.5 cups. But I'm doing half of that. And then we're adding, just a second. I have to think. Oh, okay. And then we're at, and I wanted to say that the recipe has some really complicated instructions when it comes to making the cheesecake, but that's just because she's using a low power blender and explaining how you can like chop up your cashews and add them a little at a time and blend, add some more blend. You don't have to do that. You can soak your cashews. So I'm sort of skipping all the way down to step 5 and just going, oh, okay, you just add the ingredients. So the ingredients are the cashews, the lime juice, the ginger. I used freshly grated. You could also get away with ginger powder. It just won't have as strong a flavor. And I have a great tip on ginger that I've loved ever since I discovered it. And that is buy it at the store, just the root, throw it in the freezer in a Ziploc bag. And when you pull out chunks of it that are frozen, you can grate it really easily. And the peel is not a problem. It kind of like falls off while you grate. And then you never have a moldy piece of ginger in your fridge anymore. And you can have a supply whenever you need it. And it's super easy to grate into your recipes. So we are adding a coconut cream. I bought a can of actual coconut cream. It says coconut cream on the front, but you can also buy a can of coconut milk, stick it in the fridge, and just take the hardened top layer of coconut that has formed, which is coconut cream, and throw away or reuse the liquidy, almost watery liquid at the bottom underneath the coconut cream. So in goes that. Just gonna reuse that spatula. And there's a bit of maple syrup going in. If maple syrup is a little too expensive for you, you could add a little bit of vegan dry sugar or stevia or agave. Agave is expensive. You can use any sweetener that you want. And then the same thing as before. Use some water to keep it going as you blend. I'm gonna wait to see how much water I need to add before I add any, because I don't want it too thin or it won't thicken up like a cheesecake texture. Okay, blender again. I realize I'm going a little fast, I think, maybe, I'm not sure. It's hard to tell when you're not the one witnessing it.
Sounds good to me.
Does it? Okay, good. Sometimes I speed through it. Sometimes I go too slowly. You never know. Okay, I did not need more water and my cashews were not soaked. So I think the recipe has enough liquid as called for. So that's a good thing to note. One more loud. If you have a nice creamy consistency, you can stop blending. You can check the consistency by putting a little bit in between 2 fingers and rubbing. And if it's really gritty, keep blending. And if it's not, you're probably good. You can also go taste test it and see if it needs anything. Mine's pretty good as the recipe calls for. Oh, don't do what I just did. We're going with the caramel first. There's a layer of caramel on the bottom, although you could switch it around. Well, I'm just gonna do that because I can. I'm gonna switch it around and do a little bit of the cheesecake, like half of it, and then a layer of the caramel. And I'm realizing now my jar is way too small. So it's gonna look a little funky, but that's okay. And then a layer of the cheesecake. In my family, when I serve something that's not the prettiest, it's kind of rustic. We just call it ugly delicious. So sometimes things that I want to come out really pretty and perfect, I just have to be like, hey, this one's ugly delicious. So close your eyes. It's really good. And the other thing I was going to say is that my kids and I are both really sensitive to loud sounds. And so every time I use the blender, which is really often, I'll just yell loud. My kids go like this and wait it out with their little ears covered. It's pretty funny. And another layer of the caramel. And then the recipe calls for an optional almond brittle topping, which on its own is the most amazing little recipe. It is just flake almonds, like sliced almonds, with a little bit of maple syrup, and I add a little salt, and then flattened out on a baking sheet and baked at 350 until it's amazing. And so it just looks like this, and it's super thin and crispy and delicious. And you can add a couple little shards of it to the top of your cheesecake when you're serving it. I wouldn't add the shards and then refrigerate for a while because you have to chill these. I would wait because they'll get soggy in there. So this can get a lid on and go in your fridge to chill. And I don't know how long it says to chill it, but I would give it a couple hours. And when the cheesecake layer is pretty solid, you can take it out and enjoy. Another recipe that can be flexible, you can change the flavoring of the cheesecake layer and make it, you can take out the lime and ginger and make it a plain cheesecake flavor. You could make it vanilla cheesecake. You could try some cocoa powder and make it chocolate cheesecake. You can do all kinds of things with that really easy base, which is just your cashews, your water, and a sweetener, and a little bit of coconut cream if you want it really rich. Another tip I have is that if you're trying to avoid saturated fat, which is high in coconuts, you can, I've never seen that before. Big thumbs up, just okay. If you want, thank you. If you want to avoid the saturated fat in coconut, you can use silken tofu, the kind in the little aseptic boxes on the shelf in the grocery store. And that will work just as well and be just as delicious, but be a lot less saturated fat, which is really nice.
And could you maybe make it fruity too? You could put some,
yeah,
some
you
fruit in the cheesecake layer.
absolutely. You could do instead, well, and also you could take the caramel out and add some fruit compote or just fresh fruit and just make a layer of fresh fruit, a layer of the cheesecake mixture, a layer of fresh fruit, and so on. And if you were feeling really fancy, you could make some aquafaba whipped cream for the very top. If you're interested in that, look it up. It's really cool. You take the liquid from a can of chickpeas and blend it, not blend it, whip it just like you would egg white, and you can make or cream, and you can make a whipped cream substitute, and you can even whip it more until it's stiff peaks, and you can use it to make meringue, which I just tried a little while ago and was really, really amazingly good. So give it a shot. That liquid in chickpea cans is pure magic and low fat and wonderful. Okay, I have no idea what time it is. 12:20. Okay, I think I am going too fast. I'm going to slow down a little bit. So the other two recipes, the creamy kimchi noodle jar and the hang with me here, the Greek salad jar, are so flexible. I'm going to start with the Greek salad jar because this is the one that you can basically look in your fridge. My cat won't stop meowing. You can look in your fridge and just take whatever produce you have and turn it into a layered salad in your jar. This one we're going with is a Greek theme, but like I was saying earlier, you could go with like a sort of a Mexican theme. You could go with an Asian vibe. You could do like a barbecue vibe, which would be really good. And you could add sort of like a barbecue tempeh or barbecue seitan and corn and a vegan ranch dressing. And if you're going whole food plant-based, you could look up one of the millions of oil-free recipes on the internet. Here we go with the pets. Okay, they're obsessed. The dog is obsessed with the cat. I just have to make sure that there's no fighting. This is Stanley. And the dog behind me is very jealous, and his name is Wally. Say hi, Stan. He has tiny white toes.
Stan, he's beautiful. He's handsome.
I know. Okay, Wally, go away.
They are appreciated by your audience too.
I know, and the dog is really sweet too. I didn't mean to just dismiss him, but he's weird with the cat. We kind of have to separate them a little bit, and it stresses me out. Okay, so now that I have cat hair on my hands, we are going to talk about this Greek salad recipe. So it is basically dressing in the very bottom so you don't get everything soggy. And then the beans, in this case, I chose chickpeas. And then you layer the veggies, sort of the heartier veggies until you get to the top for the very fragile veggies like the lettuce. The recipe called for spinach. I am going to use the greens that I already have from our garden, which are super fragile. So they're going to go at the very top. If you are using something more sturdy, hardy, like kale or even romaine, it'll last longer. These aren't going to last quite as long because it's such fragile lettuce. But I think with these jar recipes, you'll be surprised. Once they're sealed with the lid, they last a lot longer than you would imagine. I can get like 4 or 5 days out of them and still be perfectly fine, even with the delicate little greens at the top. So in this case, I am starting with some chickpeas, but you could do any bean here. You could do black beans, you could do white beans, you could do literally any bean at all that you have on hand that you're into. You could also do cubed tofu if you don't want to do beans. And we're adding a layer of the chickpeas. I'm not measuring, the recipe has measurements if you want to, pay attention to that, but I'm gonna wing it. I did it again. The dressing has to go in first, just like the caramel was supposed to go in first. In this case, you do want the dressing at the very bottom. Very important. Okay. So we are gonna make a dressing using just your normal vinaigrette ingredients. It's not a fancy one at all, but you could replace this with any dressing you want. Bottled dressing, or you could create your own. This particular recipe that's you're linked to is just olive oil and vinegar. I like to add a little I almost said mushroom. I like to add a little mustard to help emulsify the ingredients. So you could add whatever you like to add to salad dressings if you're into making salad dressings. Some salt, some ground pepper. If you are not eating oil, this could also be made with broth, just straight up water. I've also made an amazing vinaigrette using flax seeds and water. The flax seeds kind of gel up and make it thicker and hold together like a really good dressing. It was amazing. So there are lots of possibilities for an oil-free dressing as well. So whisk that up. Oh, I am going to add some Italian dressing. The recipe calls for basil, but I am extra and I don't want to just do one boring herb. I want to do lots. You could also throw in some fresh herbs. that time of year when they're so lovely. This would be great with fresh oregano and basil. And dill. Dill would be so good with this one. So dressing first. And then if you have one of these funnels, it makes this process a lot less messy. And then the beans. Just a little layer of them, as much as you want. And then you're going to add the pasta. Same thing. I mean, however you like your salads. If you don't want too much pasta, or if you like a lot, go for it. I'm adding chopped tomatoes and cucumber and red onion in this layer. They're hearty enough to be fine. Right there. Cucumber. And some red onion. And then I'm going to stuff some of this lettuce in the top. And we'll be good to go. And obviously these ratios are completely flexible. If you'd rather have a lot more greens, you can do whatever you want, which is why I love these recipes so much. So once you have this in your fridge, ready to go for yourself, you can grab one. Once the lid is on, I recommend putting the lid on first. You can shake it. If it's too full, you can dump it out in a bowl and stir it. The other tip I have is if you want to just shake it and eat it out of the jar, one, make sure it's wide mouth jar before you go to town. And the other is either make your salad smaller than the jar, significantly smaller, or get a bigger jar so that there's room in there to really shake the contents around. And then you'll have your salad already ready to go, ready to eat. So there's the salad. So yeah, so I was saying earlier, that one's super flexible. You could skip the pasta and do rice. You could do no pasta, no rice, and just a ton of veggies and beans, tofu, seitan, any kind of meat substitute you want to add in there and change up the flavors. The thing I like about it is that I'll do, 1 week's worth prep of these, and then the next week I'll switch the flavors up so that we're not too bored. So, this week it's Greek salad, and next week it'll be a Mexi style salad. Because it's so nice to have these jars in your fridge, but it's also nice to have that, it's nice to not get sick of the same flavors over and over again. And next, now's a good time for questions too, if there are any. I guess
Yeah, I think everybody's good at the moment, but I'm keeping track of that, so I'll keep it posted.
This creamy udon noodle salad is my favorite. And when I first tried it out, I ate it like 4 days in a row. Because I couldn't stop eating it. It's so good. It does contain mayonnaise. If you are eating a whole food plant-based diet and no processed foods and no oil, you can skip the mayo and add like a cashew cream, or you can use silken tofu too. The silken tofu is great because you don't need a blender and you can stir it up really easily, whisk it up really easily with the other ingredients, just like mayo. But the mayo does add some creaminess, and I am going to use it just as a, just using the recipe as written for now.
And did you make your own mayo, or do you recommend particular brands?
I have tried my own mayo so many times and just not loved it because I try to make it without oil. If I'm going to make it myself, I want to try to make it less oil. And I've tried some that are silken tofu based, and they just don't do it for me for some reason. So I either make the cashew based. Okay, so I did stumble on a recipe for like a savory cashew cream, and I actually use that as a mayo substitute. It does it for me. But if I'm in a hurry, Vegenaise is my go-to. So that's what I'm using today.
Mhm.
If you don't have the time for making your own mayo, don't feel bad. Just do what you need to do to feed yourself. I'm looking for my little spatula, which I have misplaced, of course. So Same thing with this one. If you can remember, put the dressing in first. This dressing is, again, really, really simple. You can throw it together in like 2 minutes. I mean, 2 seconds, not 2 minutes. It's nothing. So there's a little bit of mayo or your silken tofu. There's a little bit of soy sauce. I use tamari. If you're gluten-free, tamari is a good option. I used a little, and I'm using a little bit of sesame oil, a toasted sesame oil. Again, if you are oil-free, just skip the sesame oil and you can add whole sesame seeds, which will give you that great sesame flavor, or you can just leave it out altogether. And we're going to whisk. So you're going to whisk those together until you got a nice creamy base. The recipe calls for dumping these ingredients in the jar and then stirring it up in the bottom of the jar to get it creamy and mixed up. And that is a pain, I think. So I am just going to do it in a bowl and then pour it out. So I don't think I need the funnel for this one. So in goes that. And if you don't have any jars or don't want to use jars, you can also just do these layered meals in any Tupperware container that you have, and then take them with you too. Same portability, wider opening. So, you know, it's very flexible. And on top of the dressing goes the pasta. I used gluten-free udon noodles. If anyone's gluten-free out there or cooks gluten-free for a family member, I just discovered these and they are my absolute favorite noodle. It's the Lotus Foods brand. They're brown rice too, which is cool because the brown rice retains some of the nutrients that white rice doesn't. And I have a hard time finding brown rice noodles. These were, unfortunately, I could only find these at New Seasons. I couldn't get them at Fred Meyer where things are a little cheaper. But thank goodness for New Seasons selection. So I'm putting in a layer of noodles. This is a noodle salad, so I'm adding quite a bit of noodles. I don't even know what the recipe calls for. I'm just adding until it looks good to me. And so we've got a layer of noodles, and then the recipe calls for shredded cabbage and shredded carrot. Whoa, I almost dropped the carrot bowl. I shredded these on a box grater and just chop this with a knife really finely because my mandolin slicer thing is broken right now, which is sad. I love that thing. So on top of the udon noodles goes a layer of cabbage, a little layer of carrot, and I just realized that I have cucumbers left over from the Greek salad, and cucumbers would be really good in here. So I'm going to add them. I always fill up my jar or my plate at a buffet way too fast. And then I don't have enough room left over at the end for everything. Edamame is a great protein source and looks so pretty and tastes really good in this salad. So there's a layer of edamame and then kimchi. This kimchi brand is, hang on, let me grab it. Oh, I peeled the label off by accident. Shoot, it's the store brand at Fred Meyer, which is cool because it's really affordable and it happens to be vegan. Not all kimchi brands are vegan, so watch out for that. Check on the back for like fish sauce or shrimp, some kind of like mini shrimp, dried shrimp situation. So watch out for that. But this one I find to be pretty yummy for the price, and it's easy to find at Fred Meyer. And yeah, I really like it. It's got sesame seeds in it, which is super yummy to me. So a layer of the kimchi chopped up. And if you don't like kimchi, skip it. But I do have to say that it's really, really good in this recipe. It might surprise you. And there you've got that one. You can sprinkle on some more sesame seeds on top. You could add some chopped peanuts when you eat it. Don't add the peanuts and then let it sit in the jar. They'll get soft unless you like that. So there's that one. And 12:35. Wow. Okay. I went way too fast.
Oh,
So let's talk about a whole food plant-based eating. So vegan is obviously no animal products. Whole food plant-based is a focus on not processed plants. So the more processed a food is, the harder it is on your body. Nobody that I know of has enough time on their hands to eat all whole foods all the time. It would be great for your body, but real life means that convenience foods happen. So I'm not saying switch to a whole food plant-based diet right now, please. But if you are on that path or are curious, it is one of those things where you hit the learning curve, and then on the other side of it is, oh, this is just how cooking is now. So don't be too intimidated by it if you want to try it. And I this is what I do for a living. So people like me you can reach out to people like me for help with switching to a diet that is whole food plant-based. I eat maybe 90 to 95% whole food and try to limit oils and processed foods, but I don't completely eliminate them. The more oil, for example, everything that was nutritious, almost everything, has been removed, and all that's left is concentrated fat. So all you're getting is calories for the most part with oils. No fiber, not a lot of nutrients, and just this very concentrated caloric stuff. And if you're trying to maintain or lose weight, or if you are finding that greasy, heavy stuff just makes you feel crappy and crappier the older you get, like I have discovered, cutting back on oil can really help with all of that. And then there are lots of ways that you can cook without oil. You can saute without oil. You can bake without oil. It's all possible. It's just learning these new techniques and making them a habit. So, oh, and also with a whole food plant-based diet, you're trying to eliminate or at least reduce processed flours. So, any flours that are not whole grain, and it has to say 100% whole grain on the label, are out if you want to avoid processed flours, and processed sugars are out as well. But there are so many things you can replace those with, like the date paste I was talking about, and cooking with broth or with water. And what's left when you take away animal products and oils, sugars, refined flours is stuff that fills you up with very fewer calories. So it's called high volume eating, where you can just eat a ton, but it's low calorie. And you feel like you're getting to eat all this amazing food, but it's not packing on the calories if you're into that. And there are plenty of resources online, as well as me, when it comes to understanding whole food plant-based eating, and a ton of good recipes. Forks Over Knives app is a constant source of recipes. They're always uploading some new ones, and they have a magazine that you can get each season. I think they're seasonal, I'm not sure, with even more recipes. So those are some suggestions for getting started with a plant-based diet, and potentially a whole food plant-based diet. Oh, okay, I was just looking at the chat.
do you ever have any issues with your daughters eating whole food plant-based?
Yeah, I sure do. Up until they were like 5, no problems at all. They loved everything I made. They didn't miss, what they never had, meaning animal products. And then when they got their own little opinions, it got harder. And when they went to public school and they started to see people pulling out their Lunchables with the ham and cheese, and they wanted to know about it and they wanted to taste it, and they were feeling a little left out, and kids were asking them, like, why do you eat the way you do? And so we talk about it a lot, about why we eat the way we do. I emphasize the environmental part of it with them, because they're both really concerned about the environment and animals, wildlife. So we talk about that. However, I decided that I was going to not be too rigid with them. Eating disorders are uh, horrific and pretty sadly common with girls, even to this day. Even, now it's still pretty common. And I don't want to get rigid about food with them yet. I want them to make their own decisions.
Yeah.
So at home we eat plant-based, and then when they're at restaurants, they get to order what they want, which kills me. It kills me. But I'm waiting for them to come around and say, I don't think I want to eat animals because I love animals. And
How old are they?
they're 8.
Yeah.
And one of them is starting to come around and say, I don't think I want to eat meat. And I have not proselytized. I have not preached.
Mm.
I have left her alone. If she asks me questions, I will talk about how hard it is on the planet to eat animal products. I will talk about how much healthier a plant-based diet is for her. But I try not to preach too much. We'll see. I mean, a part of me is super tempted to say no to their requests for meat, but I'm trying this right now. We'll see how it goes. It's hard.
Mm.
8-year-olds are tough to feed,
Imagine.
in general, much less to restrict them from certain food groups that their friends are chowing down on. And interestingly enough, I don't have, in my circle of friends, I don't have any fully plant-based friends, or none of their friends are plant-based either. So we don't live in a community, sadly, I don't, of vegan people that I hang out with on a regular basis and that they hang out with. So I'm looking to change that. And I think that will help too, because then their peers will be eating what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. Feeding kids is so challenging, and I don't think that you have to make it a battle with them. I think they have to come around on their own. And when they do, they probably will, it'll be, their decision, and it'll be more meaningful to them because they've come to that decision on their own. That's how that's how I feel, at least.
Yeah.
And I just keep trying to, like, accidentally show them videos of no, I'm just kidding. I don't show them videos of the conditions of animal in feedlots, but I do show them videos of how smart pigs and cows are and how loving and sweet they are. Just hoping it'll sink in a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been thinking about taking them to an animal sanctuary and volunteering there. I want them to have firsthand experience with the animals that they, go and eat. And then I want them to make the connection that it's not, that there's a place where those come from, and it comes from.
Well, and we have 2 visits to animal sanctuaries during this challenge that you and everybody else is welcome to. One of them is to Out to Pasture next weekend, and then the last Saturday in the month is going to Wildwood. And so you get to see the animals and you get to hear about their stories, and it's child appropriate. So
Yeah, I totally want to do that. That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my story is that and I'm sorry I finished cooking so early. I hope
We did
there are
have a question here. Somebody wants to have you talk more about cooking without oil. She loves tossing veggies with olive oil and baking, broiling them. I tried to do it with just some water, but they stuck to the pan and dried out and didn't taste as good. So I'd appreciate any advice you can offer.
Yes, roasting is the trickiest one I have found. So first I would recommend using either a Silpat, which is a reusable silicone mat for your cookie sheets or your baking sheets. Nothing will stick to this. Or if it sticks, you just easily peel it off. Or you can use parchment paper. I wouldn't even bother without one of those 2 options underneath your food on your cookie sheet or baking sheet. The other thing I would recommend is, if you, yeah, this is a tough one. I have a hard time with this one. This is where I'm still using a little bit of oil because I'm still figuring out the roasting process. But There are lots of techniques out there. One is tossing them in broth and lots of really good seasoning, and using really hot temps. If you're doing potatoes, boil them first until they're almost fully tender, then slice, then bake, and they will get really crispy that way versus starting with raw potatoes. Also, I have tried a sauce before that I tossed the veggies in that had tahini in it, along with a bunch of other yummy stuff, spices and nutritional yeast. And that was pretty amazing. That the fat from the tahini really, you know, upped the flavor and made them get crispier, and it tasted more rich. So you can try sauces like that. The other thing I was going to say, oh, air fryers. Try them in the air fryer, again with a little parchment paper under them, tossed in a yummy sauce. You can get a little crispier final product in an air fryer than in the oven. And yeah, the other thing I often do is I'll roast them without oil and then just toss them in some yummy sauce. So it's like just covered in a delicious sauce, and it'll be delicious either, no matter what. Let the sauces kind of pull the weight. And there was one more thing I was going to say. Yeah, it's gone. If you do use an oil to roast with at high temps, like 400 or more, make sure you use an oil with a high smoke point, because if you don't, the oil will start to smoke, and that is chemically changing in the food, and you can have it's not the healthiest thing in the world to eat oil that's gone to the smoke point and turned to smoke. So I would recommend avocado in that case. I don't use coconut oil because of the saturated fat. So in 2017, my 41-year-old husband had a heart attack. We had no idea that he had any issues. He was active. We didn't eat junk food. So we thought we ate really healthy, and he had this heart attack, and he had 2 stents put in his arteries to keep them open. And the doctor said, you'll just be on medication forever. And I went home like, well, I'm just a everyday person, and I know about Dean Ornish. He's this doctor who helped people reverse their heart disease with a plant-based diet. So I just started Googling heart disease and plant-based diet and Dean Ornish, and I came across all this information about a plant-based diet and reversing these chronic diseases that are the ones in our country that that most people suffer from, like cancer, diabetes, heart disease. And I switched us over to a whole food plant-based diet. At first we were really strict about it, and then we slowly brought in some things like a little bit of oil here and there and some sugar. But in the beginning we were fully plant-based, whole food plant-based. And after a couple months of not taking his statin, because his statin was making him feel really sick, he went to his cardiologist, and the cardiologist looked at his numbers, and he said, my God, those statins are working so well. And he said, I haven't been on them for 2 months. This is what I've been doing. And the doctor said, don't ever stop what you're doing. So I was completely convinced and hooked, and I went and got my master's degree in nutrition and made this my my career. So I have seen firsthand what it can do. And yeah, again, I try not to preach, but it's hard not to. It's incredible. And it's not something that doctors are trained to know about. They have very little nutrition training, and definitely not plant-based, although that's changing in some places. But a plant-based diet is very hard to recommend to patients who are very dedicated and addicted to animal products. And so some doctors know that they should recommend it to their patients, but also know that their patients will be like, yeah, and never do it. So spreading the word is really important, I think. And knowing that your health can be in your hands in some cases, like 100% in your hands, is empowering. And so I felt like it was my way of saying to that first cardiologist, actually, he doesn't have to just live with this. He can reverse it and prevent it from happening again. So Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Now I just need to get my kids to stop eating the animal
Mm.
product.
It'd be nice if more doctors knew as much about nutrition as you do.
I know. I want to partner with doctors, especially cardiologists, but it's a tricky group of people to collaborate with. They're very busy. They're also pretty opinionated about what their patients are going to agree to. So finding a doctor who's already plant-based to connect with is kind of what I've been working on.
Sounds great.
They're already sold, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you get clients for your business that are doing this for reasons such as your husband?
Yeah, heart disease, cancer, thyroid issues. Those have been the main ones so far. Um, and yeah, it's really empowering to learn that you can really have so much control over your health when it comes to nutrition.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it's not just supporting your health, it's actually healing your body. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry, Kathy. I can't believe how fast I was.
Well, it shows that it's easy to make meals for a whole week in a very short amount of time.
Yes, so. Oh, and what I was going to say is that obviously I just made one serving of each, but I have, you know, all the ingredients to just um, conveyor belt style make a whole bunch of these for the week, which is what I'm going to do off camera. I guess I could just be doing that while I'm talking, but it's kind of nice to not be doing two things at the same time. But
Yeah.
so
So
with this,
somebody's actually asking if you've noticed any change in your skin since committing to plant-based foods.
um, I didn't have very many skin issues before switching, but I almost always used to get monthly, right before my cycle started, just a couple of zits. I don't really get them anymore, but that could also be age changes. I'm not really sure. Can't think of any other issues with my skin that's changed. Not really. But I have heard stories of people with
Mhm.
severe cystic acne and, you know, rosacea having some really positive results with the plant-based diet. You never know when there's something you're consuming that is actually, you know, that your body's reacting poorly to, that you're allergic to, or that you're sensitive to. Um, and so, because animal products often stir up a lot of inflammation in the body, eliminating them can always um, decrease the amount of inflammation in your body. And inflammation is at the basis of all issues, all diseases, all issues. So if you've got acne, it's inflammation. If you've got, you know, just list an issue and it's inflammation based most likely. So um
And she's also asking any change in smoothness or texture or coloring.
um I used to have those little bumps. I forget what they're called. KP is the letters, is the short. I don't have them anymore. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, and I've heard sometimes people get kind of a pleasant orange type of glow if they have a lot of those anthocyanins. So it's not like you're turning into a pumpkin, but it's kind of
yeah.
an attractive glow.
Yeah, the carotenes in carrots, if you eat enough, you get a nice little tan. It's a
Yeah.
little orange, but yeah. Yeah, no, my skin seems great. And for me, the big changes were digestion. I used to eat a meal, and I love to eat, so I'll eat until I'm full. There's no way I'm going to do that 80% full business. I love to eat, so I would eat until I was full, and then just feel like I was dying for like 4 hours, just way too full, bloated, heartburn, just misery. And the main thing I noticed when I switched to a whole food plant-based diet was I could eat a ginormous meal and feel fine. I mean, I felt full, but I didn't feel sick and I didn't feel weighed down. I don't feel that anymore. I feel amazing after eating. Um, and heartburn gone. I used to have heartburn from time to time. I don't have heartburn anymore. The one thing that didn't go away because of a plant-based diet was my migraines. But all the drugs in the world weren't really helping my migraines, and I eliminated, I know this is off topic, but I eliminated caffeine, chocolate, and alcohol. And I know that, like, why live? But I did it because I was desperate, and my migraines are down to like once a month from 10 a month. So again, when it comes to eating, it can be life-changing to change your diet. So just another example of how empowering it can be to use nutrition to heal yourself when um, Western medicine isn't quite cutting it, you know?
And
So
there's no side effects from eating whole food plant-based. Yeah.
there are no side effects. Well, gas.
No, no. Well,
Well, if you first go vegan and you do it very rapidly and you eat a ton of beans all of a sudden and your body's not used to that, you will fart a lot. It will go away and you'll go back to totally great digestion, no issues.
yes.
The trick is to not switch so fast and expect to not have some gas.
And
So
rinsing your beans a lot helps.
yeah, rinsing your beans, cook them with a little of that kombu seaweed helps break down the stuff that causes gas, um, and soaking your beans before you cook them. But don't be freaked out if your first couple weeks eliminating animal products is a little gassy. It's totally normal and it's going to go away. Your body
Your
will
gut adjusts to that.
completely adjust. The other cool thing is your taste buds completely adjust. You think, oh, I can't quit cheese. But the crazy thing is if you go without it long enough, which is usually like 3 weeks, maybe, some people it's faster, some people it takes longer, you will stop craving it. I swear, I promise. I did not believe it was true. I told myself for, I don't know, 30 plus years that I could never stop eating cheese. I was wrong. You can stop eating cheese. You can find substitutes that are plant-based that will do it for you. And you can bridge the gap between, feeling addicted to it and not. And then you will not be addicted anymore. I swear to God. I was fully off of dairy, and my kids were still eating a little bit. And so I was chopping up some, like a big log of Tillamook cheese for them. And I could feel how fatty the cheese felt. It felt like lard, like a block of lard. And I was like, oh my God, I used to just sit down and eat half a block of this stuff. And now it grosses me out. So your taste buds and your senses do change. It's kind of like when I was growing up, we were suddenly told, or at some point in my life, we were told fat was bad for us. And so everyone went from drinking like 2% in whole milk to skim. And I remember first thinking that the skim milk was like chalk water. It was like bluish. It was disgusting. But then I got used to it and I went back and had some whole milk at some point and it was so gross. It was like drinking whole, like cream. So your taste buds can do this when you go off of animal products as well. You will no longer crave it and you will know, and your taste buds will now believe that this is delicious. I mean,
We
it
have,
is
we,
delicious,
we
but
have some, we have somebody asking if you can recommend any cheese brands for slices of grated cheese.
okay, this is a tricky one. There are no sliced or shredded plant-based cheeses out there that I know of that don't have coconut oil in them. And coconut oil is a big no-no in our house because of the heart disease issue and because coconut has saturated fat. And frankly, some of the vegan cheeses out there have more saturated fat than the cow milk based cheeses. Same with vegan ice cream, sadly. If you have no heart issues, go for it and try all the different vegan cheeses and see what you love. We can't very often. Flavor wise, I like chow slices the best. I have not found a shredded cheese I love at all and don't even bother, but Miyoko makes a pourable liquid mozzarella that does not have coconut oil in it, I think. Or if it does, the saturated fat is very low because coconut oil is very low on the list of ingredients. Anyway, it is fantastic. Pour it on a homemade pizza. You will be so happy. It's really, really good. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say is if you go into eating, if you've been eating animal products consistently for a long time and you decide you want to slow down or stop and you eat a vegan cheese for the first time and you say to yourself, this better taste like cheddar, you're in for some disappointment because it's not going to taste just like cheddar. So if you go into it thinking, do I like this or not? Is this yummy? Is this just a yummy food for me? It's going to be a lot more helpful because then you're going to be able to filter out those mindsets of this doesn't taste like my cheese. This doesn't taste like my cream in my coffee. And you'll be able to kind of broaden your horizons and think, but do I like it? Do I not like it? And then you can experiment. Works a lot better than setting yourself up for a disappointment every time you try. But I highly recommend that Miyoko's liquid mozzarella and chow slices if you're not dealing with heart disease issues. Chow slices are super yummy.
And this person is sensitive to nutritional yeast and wonders if there's another sprinkle that she could substitute for that cheesy flavor.
Nutritional yeast is a tough one. There isn't really a good substitute for it. However, I would experiment with, man, that's really tough. Okay. Oh, nooch is a tough one. We call it nooch.
Miso.
Miso.
Yeah, that does have a nice umami type
Got
cheesy.
that funkiness because it's
Yeah.
fermented.
Thank you, Chris.
Another thing you can do is any fermented stuff like sauerkraut. Some of the liquid from the sauerkraut can have like a really nice, funky, salty, soury kind of taste like cheese. But yeah, I would say miso is a great start. Good idea. But yeah, that's a tough one. Nutritional yeast is like truly cheesy tasting. And not too many other things that are plant-based are. I'll think more on that. Good question.
Thanks, Chris. That was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I really recommend, and I also recommend getting yourself a couple of really highly rated vegan or whole food plant-based cookbooks and just playing, just experimenting, like try one new recipe a week. If it's a big failure, don't get discouraged. It's just 1 out of 10 million recipes. Try another one. Get on those recipe blogs online. There are so many good ones. If you Google plant-based recipe blogs, you'll have a million web pages of compiled lists of some of the best and most popular plant-based recipe blogs, and they are such a great help.
You have some favorites?
Oh boy. Okay. So I love Pick Up Limes. I love Minimalist Baker. She's gone back to eating some meat, maybe dairy, no, just meat. But I love her recipes because most are vegan, many are vegan and gluten-free. And we have a gluten-free family member. So that's a really great resource. All of hers are gluten-free. The majority. Pick Up Limes, Rainbow Life. Hold on. Of course, my brain goes blank. Oops, sorry. Yeah, my brain is going blank. If I think about it too much, it'll get worse.
I'll distract you with another question and then you might come back to that. So somebody wants to know how to be vegan if her gastroenterologist tells her to go low fiber.
Oh, wow. Okay. This could be like a reboot for your gut so that you're not irritating it. Well, it's worth trying to go low fiber. It hopefully will not be, you'll not be on a low fiber diet for long, because while it can be necessary for certain gut issues, fiber is so crucial to your gut health and your overall health, because your gut health is your overall health. Literally every system in your body runs better when your gut is healthy, when your gut microbiome is healthy. Fiber is what feeds your gut microbiome. Without fiber, your gut microbiome is not getting what it needs. And that can throw a lot of things off kilter. But I also know there are times when a low fiber diet can be helpful. I would try searching for recipes online for plant-based low fiber. I'm guessing it will not be easy at first. And again, I would like to know how long you've been told to be on this diet and
You
why.
see that he says forever.
Forever.
She's
Low fiber diet forever.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't want to give advice about stuff like that, but it's hard to imagine that any doctor would recommend eating low fiber for life. That does not sound like a good long-term strategy. But
It
again,
doesn't,
I don't know what you're
sound
saying.
good to me either. And I am a doctor, but I'm not a currently updated nutritional doctor, so I'm not going to
Mhm.
speculate, but I would certainly ask him why. And
Yes, I would dig on this one. Um,
because
and
I
and
agree. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in Dr. Grieger's work about how the fiber works as a prebiotic and feeds your good bacteria, which brings about so many wonderful health consequences. And so that would seem that would be very dangerous to go away from that.
I would be very concerned about going away from fiber for life. That sounds like not a great thing for your body. I would dig more into why your doctor's saying this, and I would do a ton of research.
And maybe get a second
Well,
opinion.
and get a second opinion, 100% get a second opinion. And there are some plant-based doctors that you can find in town. I don't remember their names now.
Craig McDougall is one of them. I'm not sure if he's taking new patients, but he's
That would
vegan,
be
plant-based.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So try to find a doctor who is supportive of a plant-based diet. I just can't imagine low fiber for life. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Don't just go by that one answer.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. But yeah, fiber fiber is crucial. I wouldn't, yeah, fiber is so important. The more we find out about our gut microbiome, the more it is obvious that fiber is one of the most important things to put in your body, and lots of it. That's why eliminating two food groups, dairy and meat, is so incredible, because what fills in the gaps of those things that you're no longer eating? Plants. And what do plants have? Fiber. Can't get any fiber from animal products. So the more fiber, the better. Always. Unless you've got some serious gut issue and you need to like trim back on the fiber for a while until it heals up and then slowly reintroduce it. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Good question.
Me too. Yeah.
These are great questions. Thank you, everyone.
They are.
I love answering questions. Even if I don't know the answer, I love the back and forth. So any and all are super welcome. And feel free to get a hold of me outside of this demo too.
Yeah, your website is linked to the event, and it's going to be on the YouTube video that everybody sees. So
Great.
ways to get through to you.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Are there any particular common issues that people have who partake of your services? Is it all mainly health, or are there other or any particular health issues that are the most common?
Heart disease is
Yeah.
really common, but a lot of times it's just, hey, we keep hearing about this plant-based situation and how great it is for us and the environment, but we don't know what to do. We're
Mhm.
overwhelmed with our life as it is, much less adding in a new thing. So usually it's help us eat healthy without us having to do all the research and the meal planning and the cooking and the cleaning and the grocery shopping. Or it's somebody who knows they want to make this switch and they're really dedicated to making the switch, but they just need some hand holding in the beginning. And then I do in-home cooking classes where we just together cook a meal and talk about tips, strategies, menu planning, all the things, so that you don't feel like you're going through this process on your own. Because in the beginning, it does take extra time, but it won't always take extra time. Eventually, it will just be your norm. So you just need help in the beginning.
And somebody else is struggling with the plant-based recipes, not having enough flavor, just adding more doesn't always work.
That's sad. I wish my brain was working. Thank perimenopause for the fact that it does not work anymore, but there are so many good sites for vegan recipes that are absolute. Ooh, what's that one? Rabbit and Wolves? Rabbit and Wolves. Rabbit and Wolves is a great one for flavor. They're like super flavor packed and really comforting. Not the best recipes if you're trying to deal with heart disease or lose weight, but amazing flavor and amazing comfort food factor. So Rabbit and Wolves, Minimalist Baker.
And all of Isa Chandra Moskowitz's books and
Oh, Isa.
amazing.
This is my recommendation. Start with Isa Chandra Moskowitz. She was who I started with. Her recipes are packed with flavor. She's got her blog, which is Post-Punk Vegan.
Post-Punk Kitchen.
Post-Punk Kitchen, thank you. She's got amazing cookbooks. The one that I started this journey with is Isa Does It. It's
Yes, that's wonderful.
well loved that the cover fell off. So it's called Isa Does It. Every single recipe is insanely delicious and easy, and the ingredients are really pretty simple. This is not whole food plant-based, but you can easily adapt to whole food plant-based.
And Chris Chris is commenting about how vegan Richa, R-I-C-H-A, and she's great. And I actually linked to her multiple times throughout the Veg Challenge, their various recipes. She's amazing. And Isa is I-S-A. It's Isa Chandra Moskowitz.
Yep.
So you couldn't see that in your fallen off cover, but it's ISA and then Chandra and Moskowitz.
Yep. And another one, Vegan Richa, I agree. Lovely, wonderful recipes. The other Isa book I love is I Can Cook Vegan. Again, really simple recipes. This is a good one. This is probably even better for beginners than the Isa Does It one. Just like your basics in there. And then I also love, oh my God, so hard to reach. I also love Hungry as Hell. Lots of flavor bombs in here. Really fun stuff and unusual.
What's that by?
Oh, it's called Bad Manners. It's a duo. I think it's husband, wife, or something. I don't know what the heck their names are. Let me see. Well, I don't know. If you don't like cursing, don't get this one. There's a lot of F-bombs in this one. But it's some great recipes, really cool stuff. Yeah, why? It just says a Bad Manners cookbook.
And I like Colleen Patrick Goudreau's cookbooks too. She's got a lot of baking and one that's all about cooking with color, that are kind of all sorts of, which are phytonutrients are important, but she kind of has it organized by color, so you can have red dishes and yellow dishes and blue dishes and things like that.
I like that. Yeah. That's also really fun for kiddos to cook in a rainbow for them to see, the different colors of phytonutrients. Plant You is another really great blog. Carly Bodrug. She's really big right now. She's got this one, and then the other one's propping up my camera right now. But it's called Plant You Scrappy Cooking, and I think I like it even more than this one, but I love them both, and they're standards for me. I use them constantly. She's awesome. Follow her on Instagram, Carly Bodrug. It's a funny spelling of Carly, so her out.
Yeah.
Really accessible, easy recipes.
And then there's another one, Be a Plant-Based Woman Warrior.
I got that one too.
Cookbook for whole food plant-based.
Yeah, follow those two.
This is full of some great ideas here.
Mine is right here somewhere. Oh, it's propping up the camera. Yep. I just got the Plant-Based Women Warrior one a couple months ago, and I'm loving it.
Oh, and the Esselins. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
the Esselstyns. Esselstyns are a good one to follow on YouTube. They have great YouTube videos. They're all whole food plant-based, and they will also talk about the heart disease friendly whole food plant-based recipes, which are like you're even eliminating like nuts and avocado, or at least reducing, which is so it's nice to have tips from them. And this is flavor. This is like super flavor. They're not going to give you like dull, boring recipes.
And
I
Chris is
am allergic.
wondering, yeah, she's wondering if there might have been a tahini roasted vegetable dish in there.
I think they are who I got that tahini roasted veggie idea from,
Okay.
but it might not be in here. It might be one of their YouTube videos, but it's worth it to check. It's worth it to buy this book, even if it doesn't have that recipe in it, but Google whole food plant-based, no oil, tahini roasted veggies, and you'll find
Yeah,
something.
Chris said it was really delicious. So,
Oh, good.
yeah, yeah.
It's great. Wait, what was delicious? The roasted
The
veggie?
the tahini roasted veggies.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed.
So for the person who had the question about the no oil, that was.
Got it. Yeah. Oh, and then one more person, Drina Burton.
Yeah.
I'm just lowering my laptop stand as I take these books away. Drina Burton's got really good stuff, some good baking stuff too. Also all whole food plant-based, no processed, no oil, no refined flour. That's a good start. And there are a million more out there that are so worth following and buying their cookbooks.
Yeah, I certainly found once I became vegan, there were all these flavors I'd never had. It was really much more flavorful than it ever was before, because you can get into such a rut. The omnivore diet really doesn't have that kind of variety. And
it's so interesting. You think, oh, I'm taking away these big categories of my diet. No, you're actually not. That's just 2 categories.
yeah.
Now you've got every single plant. You've got roots, you've got flowers, you've got seeds, you've got nuts, you've got fungi, you've got everything, and you can really branch out now because you're learning. And so that's what I found too. My experience with food and my excitement about cooking and my world of food opened up. It did not feel restrictive at all. It felt much more exciting and interesting. Yeah, it's pretty great. Yeah, and follow what you're interested in. If you want to learn how to make, cheese substitutes, take a class. I took a vegan cheese making class once, and it was so fun. And it just gets you psyched and like motivated. And if you feel your motivation waning, get a new cookbook, get a new Forks Over Knives magazine, watch a documentary again or for the first time, and just like remind yourself of why you're doing this and why it's so important.
And this one of these people's asking where you found your cheese making class.
It was at People's Co-op grocery store off of Division 20 something in Division, I don't know. And that was when they used to have classes. I don't think they have classes anymore since COVID. I've been looking.
Miyoko does have a whole cheese cookbook though, right?
Does. I have that one too. Don't know where it is, but I have it. Yeah, Miyoko has a cheese cookbook that has some good stuff in it. But it's a really interesting thing to learn about. And it's this really cool learning process of how do I make these substitutes taste extremely delicious so that I don't feel like, deprived. It's a really fun thing to learn about. And it's like an experiment, which is always cool.
And the name of the book, I'm not sure what the name of the book was, but her name is Miyoko, and there's that spelled Miyoko. What's her last name?
Schinner?
Schinner, and that's Schinner. Is that right? If you Google her, I think you'll find that it's got some simple title that includes like cheese cookbook or something like that.
Yeah. It's like a classic vegan one. There's also Veganomicon by Isa.
Yes,
Chen
that's wonderful.
and Sherry Romero. It's like the Bible of vegan. That's one I would start with too. It's like doesn't have a ton of pictures, but it has a million recipes in it that are pretty reliable, that are very reliable and yummy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And for kiddos, a part of getting them excited about eating when you're
Mm.
taking away something from them is getting them a really fun cookbook. I have a couple of cookbooks. I love this one. Um, it's just making it fun. And we made this chocolate mint shake the other day, and it's full of spinach, but it
Mm.
tastes like mint chocolate chip. So they were like, this is so good. And, had spinach in it. So get the kids, for me, the thing I found is that's the most helpful is getting my kids to cook with me or to cook on their own, because then they are like guaranteed to eat it. And they feel like they, you know, are involved and in control. So that really helps with the kiddos.
And somebody's asking, we are recording this talk, so after it's all over with, I will be uploading it and it will be available on it'll be a YouTube video, and I'll be sending the link to everybody who is who applied to be here, and everybody who's taking the challenge. So you'll get to look at all that later.
That's great. Yeah, it's a lot of info I'm throwing at you. So
Yeah,
it's good to be able to,
yeah, no, it's
if you
been
were
very
here
helpful.
for it, to be able to go back. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, such good questions. I love talking about this stuff. I can
No,
talk
this
about,
was great. A lot of wonderful interactions.
yeah. And hopefully the recipes are yummy. This brittle, oh,
It looks great.
get
Yeah.
ready. And you're gonna want to make it all the time. It's good on its own too. Trying to think of any other books that I really have to talk about. Oh,
And what is something about about home classes?
oh yeah, in-home cooking classes. Yeah, I provide in-home cooking classes where we talk about what your cooking issues and hopes and dreams are, and what's getting in the way of you eating the way you really want to be eating. And then I plan a menu based on what I know about you and what you will want to accomplish. And then I bring the groceries to your house and the recipes, and we cook together and talk about whole food, plant-based eating, lifestyle, and cooking. I can teach techniques. I can talk nutrition. We can go through your pantry. It's just sort of like a, plant-based kickstart kind of a thing.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fun. And then we get to eat together, or you can just eat with your family and I'll hightail it out of there and you can enjoy the food.
Yeah.
I've done both.
And there will be a link to her to Cassie's website, so you can figure out all the details there.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be great to hear from some of y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say First Mess. That's another great website, blog, a recipe blog that's packed with really super flavorful, comforting dishes that are all plant-based. Really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another one that I've been watching lately is Broccoli Mum, like the British mom. Um, she doesn't have much of a website, but her Instagram videos are super helpful about high volume, low caloric plant foods. And she makes just these really simple, fast, delicious looking recipes that are like full of nutrients and flavor, but super low in calories. So if you're trying to lose or maintain weight, you can eat a lot of food and feel really satisfied, but not be eating such high caloric density stuff. So I've really enjoyed her lately.
I'm learning a lot too.
Mom.
Yeah.
She's pretty great.
Now, then everybody's probably going to want to rewatch this because there are a lot of wonderful tips you're giving us that are certainly new to me too. So that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. It's a big world out there. Once you start researching and learning more, there's so many resources out there that make it so much less forbidding and intimidating, and so much more welcoming and easy and exciting. I think the whole journey was really exciting and still is. I still find this thrill in the kitchen. Like, what can I create this time that tastes extremely good? And the funnest thing for me is feeding meat eaters and omnivores in general, and having them be like, "You're kidding me. There's no dairy in this." That's just like mwah, the best thing in the world. But
Yeah, yeah.
so that's a
Yeah, it's wonderful. There's so many different ways to come to this too, and that nobody's exactly the same, and you don't have to do it the same way. And so you can research more. If cheese is your issue, you can learn more about that. Or if you're trying to be no fat, and there are all these different things that are applicable to various people, but there are so many different ways to do it that one size doesn't fit all. And so you shouldn't get discouraged if whatever it is you're looking at
Mhm.
doesn't seem like a good fit, because there probably is a good fit and you
There-
just haven't quite found it yet.
Exactly, exactly. Don't get discouraged. Keep trying, keep looking, keep researching. And some people really benefit from like a cold turkey kind of a plan, but a lot of us don't. You may need to just be really slow and plod along. And, you know, once a week, I'm not going to eat meat. Okay. Twice a week, I'm not going to eat meat. And just build upon your little successes. Those little successes add up. And you don't want to get to the point where you feel deprived and pissed and frustrated and hungry. Really take it slowly and build it up, and it will become second nature eventually. It just takes time.
I think the research actually shows that people who do this sort of more slowly and thoughtfully are more likely to stick with it. And if you do it all at once overnight and are too demanding on yourself, you're probably going to get frustrated and stop, and you might never come back to it. So you want to be easy on yourself and do it at a pace that works for you, and don't kill yourself if you sort of
No,
so-called slip up. I mean, there's
no.
always the next meal, there's always the next day, so don't be hard on yourself about it.
There's no room for shitting yourself or feeling bad about what you've done. That's just going to slow you down. Just don't even make room for it. Just tomorrow, next day, we'll try again. It's not even worth it to feel bad about it.
Yeah, yeah. And
Nope.
somebody's asking about your favorite appliance to use.
Oh my God. I love my appliances so much. As far as amount of usage, it's my blender. I use it daily pretty much, sometimes multiple times a day. And it's such a workhorse and it's so reliable. But then my air fryer is like, I don't have a microwave, so my air fryer makes things really quickly and doesn't heat up the kitchen. So those two things are probably top, top of the list. I love a rice cooker. Um, I love my food processor, but my blender and my air fryer are, ugh, couldn't live without them. I think that's it. I want a waffle maker, but I don't have any counter space anymore.
Right, well, we're getting, actually having almost look like we were going to finish up very early. We're almost at our ending time, our official ending time. So if anybody has any more questions, now would be a great time to ask them. And of course, you can always continue on with Cassie through her website.
Yeah.
If anybody can think of anything more, that would be great. And
Yeah, and shoot me some other questions and thoughts you have, and I can address them in blog posts. And I don't do a lot on social media just because I don't. I don't love it. But I want to get there one day. So if I have some things that are on your mind and that you want to know about, it'll kind of tell me, it'll give me a read for if you're wondering that, many other people are too. So it's worth putting it out there and helping people. So yeah, shoot me a line about what you want to see and want help with, and I can see what I can do.
sounds great. Any favorite orange or grapefruit recipes?
Yes. There's this salad recipe. I think it's Terry Bryant's cookbook. Yeah. Terry Bryant has some amazing cookbooks. I could really Terry Bryant. Look up Terry Bryant. It's a salad that has grapefruit and orange. I usually do like cara and regular oranges and pink grapefruit, so it's really colorful. And then there's this amazing dressing that he has that goes with it over a bed of arugula. And the
Mm,
dressing is like cilantro, orange juice, lime juice. It's like the most amazing combination with that citrus fruit. That's my current favorite citrus recipe.
that's so yummy. And somebody's asking that you started to mention you were allergic to something.
Did I?
I don't remember that, but it
I have allergies, hay fever.
wasn't a food.
No, I'm not allergic to any foods that I know of. But I have currently just like a froggy throat and itchy nose from allergies. But
Yes,
no food
time of
allergies.
year. Yeah.
Yeah. Our whole family is
Mm.
hay fevery right now.
All right. Well, I think we're
Well, I guess technically I'm sensitive to caffeine and alcohol because when I stopped eating those things, my migraines went away. So maybe that's allergy too.
yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we're at our closing time, unless I have one last question from anybody, but otherwise there's a lot here for you to look at when we have the video available. And you
Yeah,
have,
and I hope you love the jars.
yeah, they all looked and sounded delicious. So I
So,
need
yeah.
to try them too. Well,
Yeah.
thank you everybody for coming. It was wonderful to have all the interactions. And thank you, Cassie. You did a great job.
Thank you, everyone. It was so fun.
Yeah.